It's the weekend, and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome to Jill on Money. Yeah, the last weekend of October. So exciting. You know what it really is, Mark? It's not the pre-Halloween weekend. It's open enrollment season. That's how you look at the world if you look through our lens here at the Jill on Money Show, where we take the mystery out of your financial life. I'm Jill Schlesinger. I am joined by Mark Talercio, the best producer in the world, executive producer, webmaster, social media master. What else do you want to be titled? Superman. And we are so delighted that you're with us. It is open enrollment season, so a couple of things before we get into your questions. And, one of the problems that everybody always complains about with their benefits is that, you get that big benefit book. No one wants to look through it or even go on the website. I went and looked at a few different insurance plans of different folks who have reached out to me to help with their decisions. And it's amazing how much variability there is. So let me give you a clear pathway into looking at health insurance first. By the way, 151 million Americans get their health insurance coverage through their workplace. You got to look at your current plan. And instead of just saying, oh, I'll just do this year what I did last year, look at what you are paying now, what you spent over the past plan year. Then you want to try to project what your health care costs are going to be in the year ahead. And the reason you want to do that is maybe you got to have a knee surgery. Maybe you got to have something. Maybe you're having a baby. I don't know. But look at it. Then you compare the plans and see what's offered. See what they cover, how much they cost, co-pays, deductibles, whether your doctor's in the network. And if your employer has a high deductible health plan, which is paired with a health savings account, I love this combination. High deductible plans mean you're paying more, high deductible, but you get lower premiums. And what they do is they pair that with a health savings account so you can set aside pre-tax money to pay for unreimbursed costs. So if you're healthy, generally speaking, and you want to save for future health care expenses, this could be really attractive. So do that. Put more money away into your retirement account because the president tweeted last week that 401k contributions will not be capped at $2,400 as was floated over the previous weekend. This is all going to get very interesting with this tax plan. We're going to have to dive into this, Mark, big time, because it's going to be, we're diving in head first. But today, and to start, let us go and take a call. Let's speak with Leslie in Atlanta. She is up first this weekend. Hello, Leslie. Welcome to Jill on Money. What can I do for you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Here's my thing. I'm going to retire on February 1st.
Okay.
Okay. So I have in my 401, between the 401k, 3B, all that, about $404,000.
404.
Yeah, 404.
Got it.
About.
Yep.
I'm going to need $200,000 of that for the first to get me to 65.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello, Leslie. Did we lose Leslie? Okay. So she needs 200 of that to get to 65. I happen to know she said she's 59 and a half. So this is so weird because I just got a question like this from somebody at work who I sat down with and had coffee with him this week. It's almost the identical numbers. He's 60. He wants to retire, but he wants to retire at 62. And he's got like 400 grand and I had to tell him that he had to work longer. He didn't like. And part of the reason is that a lot of people who want to retire early start to say that they want to claim their Social Security at 62. Leslie, did you think that you want to claim your Social Security early or not?
No, I don't want to touch my Social Security before 67.
Okay. So so you're saying you need the 200 grand to get you to 67?
No, to get me to 65, and then I get $1,400 in a pension.
Okay.
And then my spouse Jackie will be out of work.
Okay.
60, so we can start to pull from her.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. So my question is, would it be reasonable to use an annuity to put that into and feed it out?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No way.
Okay.
No need.
Okay.
Why should you pay an insurance company to take your money out? You don't need that. How much?
Okay,
So
so-
you're going to need the $200,000. How old are you now? Are you 59 and a half? Is that right?
As of January, yeah.
Okay, good. So I need five. So we need 5 years, and you basically need $40,000 a year, right?
Exactly.
Okay, but is that 40 net or is that 40 gross? You need to take 40 out, and you can live on the difference.
42. It's 42 gross.
Okay, all right, that seems okay. No, I don't want you to use an annuity. Screw it.
Okay.
Because that way, you know what happens? You end up paying an insurance company money that you don't have to pay them. So we're not going to do that. No, thank you.
Okay.
So what you're
Okay,
going to do is you're going to say you're going to have this account. You're going to set it up. You need $3,500 a month to come out, right?
Exactly.
And what you are going to do is you are going to make sure that you have 1 year of money that you need always in cash.
Okay.
And you're going to have it automatically sent to you. Send me $3,500 a month. All the other money invested. What's the other money? How's it invested in the right now?
It's between stocks and mutual funds and a little bit of bonds.
Okay. You're going to have to move into more bonds because we need some consistent income in there. It's not going to grow and it's not going to grow as fast.
Right. On my managed care side, I have 270,000 being managed
Where is that being managed?
out of Fidelity, out
Okay.
of work.
Okay.
I pulled it. They changed this to a 403B to a 401K.
Yeah.
And at that point, I pulled my 403B money,
Yeah.
put it managed, and opened the 401K at work.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter where the money comes out of. You just
Right.
got to make sure. And if it's managed, what you can do is you can say to whoever's managing it, I
Right.
need $3,500 a month.
Right.
And
So you
manage
put
it
in
that way.
cash every year.
You got
Okay.
it. You got it.
Cool. Now, here's my other question. I have a piece of property along with a neighbor, and we've consulted, and it may very well sell, and it may sell sooner than later,
Okay.
and possibly at $1 million to $1.3 million.
Okay. I like
So-
that.
Yeah, me too. So anyway, for protecting that asset futuristically, because I'm going to use some to build another place,
Yeah.
certainly not all of it. Should I think about opening a trust to put that into? Should I wait?
That's a good question. Can you hang on 1 second? We're going to go to a break and we're going to talk about what to do with your $1 million, which is one of my favorite things to talk about. What to do with $1 million. Mark, if you were really paying attention, you would be able to queue up if I had $1 million, but evidently that's not going to happen. Stay tuned. We are going to talk to Leslie some more about her retirement plan. She's getting out at 59 and a half. I think she sounds very young to be doing that, but that's just me. If you've got a financial question, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
From rookie investors to savvy veterans, Jill Schlesinger is here to help you. Call now, 855-411-JILL, or email askjill@jillonmoney.com.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, give us a holler, 855-411-JILL, or send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. Before the break, we were talking to Leslie in Atlanta, who, as she turns the page at 59 and a half, is calling it quits, getting out of town. And Leslie, by the way, are you going to work in retirement, or are you just going to goof off and have fun?
I'm going to do both.
All right. Okay, just checking.
I've got some stuff on the other side.
Okay. All right. So we figured out that you need some money out of your deferred retirement accounts. You're going to take a couple $100,000 out, get you to 65, claim your Medicare, get your pension, live off the largesse of your partner, and
That's right.
and then thank God. And then you got this piece of property. Now, are you living in this property currently?
Am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And so you're going to sell this thing, and
Yep.
it could sell for as much as $1 million, which is pretty awesome. How much would you need of that $1 million for a new place?
I'm hoping 500,000.
Okay. So if you had, and will there be a tax liability on that $1 million?
Not on the first 500,000.
Okay. So,
Right.
okay. Well,
no, there wouldn't be. 500,000 in profit
yeah.
that I can take, and 500,000 reinvested to property. So
Hold on
no.
a second. You can take 250. Are you married?
No, I'm married.
Okay.
I can take 500.
Beautiful. Good. Just making sure. That may be the best
Yeah.
reason to get married. Get that 500.
It's not helpful on the work end, but it is helpful on the back.
I gotcha. Very good. Okay. So you're asking me, do you need a trust for the rest
Yeah.
of that money? If you look at all of your assets, if you added everything up, all right, so you got $1 million. So let's say 500 in real estate. There'll be another 500 in this account. There's 400 in the retirement account. What else is out there?
That's it on my side. Now on her side, there's probably another 350 to 400, and she's still working.
Okay. I don't think you need a trust.
Okay.
What you probably will need is you'll need, and this is going to be, this is a joint asset. You own it joint as with rights of survivorship. So,
Yes.
you can open up a joint account with the proceeds, and you can invest it in low-cost index funds and make your life nice and easy and do just like what you've done probably with your retirement accounts. And there's really not a huge reason to have a trust. You know when you would have needed a trust? If you weren't married.
Right. And
If
there
you-
was tax liability.
Yeah, or there's just right, exactly. Or that it just doesn't pass easily. But you know what? You're married. So one person dies, the other person gets all the money, and that's by law.
Right.
Have you guys done your estate planning? Do you have wills?
We have wills.
Good. And healthcare proxies? Someone going to pull the plug?
We have healthcare proxies.
Very good.
We had to do that all before we got married
Exactly.
to be protected.
Yeah, I think that you are in very good shape. My feeling on this is, especially if you are willing to work, I think that the cool thing could be that if you work a little bit, I'm not asking you to work a lot, if just a little bit, and instead of taking the $42,000 out each year, you find you only have to take $20,000 out,
Exactly.
everything's going to look better.
Exactly.
And if you sell the house, just to be clear, if you sell the house before and it happens fast, use the money from the house proceeds to live on. Don't use the retirement asset because the house asset, those funds will have already been taxed. So my hope is if you sold the house and you put $500,000 in a joint account and you said, okay, I'm going to live on this until I'm 65, and then you delay tapping into the 401k or the 403b, that's the best case scenario.
Okay, that's cool.
All right?
That's what I needed to know.
All right, Leslie, go off. Have a good retirement. You're very young to retire, but...
I've got a lot on my plate outside of work.
All right.
For 40 years, it's time.
All right. You know yourself. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'll just tell you how to do with your money. Thank you so much for calling. Good luck.
Thanks a bunch.
Take care. Bye-bye. Good call, Mark. I like that. She is fun. She sounds like she knows what she wants, and that's good. Again, the most important thing when you're looking at some of these early retirement options, you want to try, like heck, not to claim Social Security until your full retirement age, not to tap into your deferred retirement funds until you have to. So if you have a pool of money that is available, that's already been taxed, you're going to use that first. And if you can even make sure that the number that you're taking out every month is a little bit less because you have a little part-time gig or something going on, even better. But the money that's already been taxed in a plain old investment account, that's what should get you most of the way there. And hopefully, in Leslie's case, she doesn't even have to take the 401k or the 403b money. I'm encouraged. That's a good one. That's a good one, Mark. Finally, doing some work. You guys all realize, by the way, that 401ks next year, you could, and 403b, you can put away an extra $500, $18,500. If you have a SEP plan, the limit for 2018, it's 25% up to $275,000 of compensation. That means $55,000. That's for SEPs, KEOs, profit sharing plans. It doesn't go up. It's the first time in 3 years that the 401k limit has gone up, actually. If you are, I mentioned this briefly earlier, Roth IRA phase-out limit. If you're single or head of household, it begins at $120,000. What's wrong, Mark? You can't do it anymore, can you? It's gone up a little bit. It begins at $120,000. It completely phases out at $135,000. You know, you're going to get screwed when you get married because she makes too much money. You know, you could kiss that Roth goodbye, baby. All right. Now you're going to get married. Very good. IRA limits remain exactly the same, $5,500 for next year. Catch-up contribution is $1,000. And you know, there are a lot of people who they have a retirement plan at work, and they also use an IRA, a deductible IRA. In 2018, if you are married filing jointly, and you're covered by a company retirement plan, and you make less than $101,000 together, you can still deduct full deduction of that IRA. It phases out, and at 121, you're filing jointly. You cannot deduct it. And if you're single, the range is $63,000 to $73,000. So if you make less than $63,000 and you're maxing out your retirement plan at work and you have extra money, you can also put money into an IRA and take a deductible IRA. So how about that? Pretty good. All right. Those are your big numbers. That was all announced by the IRS. And you got a little cost of living adjustment for those of you on Social Security next year. 2%. Don't spend it all in one place. Hey, take your 2% cost of living adjustment. Oh, and by the way, when you're looking at your retirement plan, a lot of people are making the mistake that they say, oh, I'm going to just take this retirement account. It's all great. Many of these older corporate retirement plans don't have cost of living adjustments. I found that out, Mark, with the old CBS plan. No cost of living adjustment, a flat rate. So that means every year as inflation goes up, the amount you receive in your pension stays static. So therefore, it's worth less to you every single year. I mean, it's still good. I wish I had it. You're listening to Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Go to JillOnMoney.com. That is our website, and check out past shows and links to all of our fun stuff, including our YouTube channel, which Mark is very proud of. We'll be right back.
Young, old, it doesn't matter. She's here to help you. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we would love to hear from you. Our phone number is very easy, 855-411-JILL. 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. Hey, Mark, have you watched any good stuff on Netflix lately? I started a new series that you might like. It's like Mind Hunter or something. Oh, it's really good. I think you're going to like it. Check it out. What are you watching? Haven't checked in with you. You're watching George Michael's documentary. You watch the Whitney Houston documentary. You're into the pop star documentary series. Did you see the Michael Jackson one? I think it was on HBO or Showtime. I can't remember. Oh, did you ever watch the Amy Winehouse movie? Oof. Brutal. That was worth watching, though. That was intense. Okay. Let's go take a call. Ben from Indianapolis, what are you watching right now? What do we need to know about?
Lately, I've been watching Parks and Rec reruns. But,
nice.
That's just me, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? That show totally makes me laugh out loud. That's a good one.
Very good.
A little escapist for you, right?
Oh, definitely. Yes.
All right. What can I do for you, sir? What's on your mind?
Well, I had two questions. One's short, one's longer. The first one was I was thinking about becoming a certified financial planner. I thought that would be interesting. But I think it's definitely, like, I like my job right now. I'm a librarian, and so I want to stick with that. And it looks like getting the certification is sort of a full-time thing. So I was wondering if there was a resource or a book you'd recommend for that level of self-learning.
So it's not full-time because Mark is doing it part-time right now. What did you do? You went to cfp.net, Mark, to find out which program. So cfp.net is the website for people who want to become certificates. And one of the things that you can look at is, and you don't have to do it put a lot of pressure on yourself, but you can certainly take your time and take a course or two and do that. There used to be a self-study. Mark, is there still Yeah, so there's still self-study. And so self-study is, you have to go get your stuff and order it. And, I'm not saying it's not cheap, but that's a more affordable way to do it. I'll look into that. So check that out. And you can take your time. That's the other thing. There's no reason to put a gun to your head, but I think it's worth sort of dipping your toe in the water. And that's the way I would do it.
Okay, cool. I'll check that out. Thanks.
All right, cool.
My second question was I'm thinking about moving. So I have a $7,000 emergency fund, and I'm thinking, and my wife and I feel pretty comfortable with that. And I was thinking about moving some of that into our traditional IRA. Because I know that when, if I don't max out the IRA this year, then I lose that potential. And then relying on our Roth IRA contributions that we have from past years if we ever have an emergency, because I know I can withdraw those without a penalty. And I'm wondering if this is a really foolish idea.
Mark is giving you 2 thumbs down from behind the glass because he knows that I am such a wimp that I will say to you, look, an emergency reserve fund, it's okay. You don't have to make every single dollar absolutely efficient. I do think what might be better is to just leave it be. And actually, you said you're married, right?
Yep.
And what do you figure your expenses are on a monthly basis?
I think that I would say about 2,000, maybe even a little less. And if something bad happened, we could cut it down even further.
Right. And you got a bunch of money in your Roths. And keep it in the emergency reserve fund. Don't worry about this. It's okay.
Okay.
And in fact, your emergency reserve fund is probably a little light. It probably should be closer to 12 or 15 grand. But that said, that's just in case.
Getting closer to 6 months.
Yep. Yep. And I know that you can always tap into your Roth if you needed to, but I would prefer that you never have to touch that money. That's the beauty of the Roth. I mean, I hope that a Roth, that money that you save in a Roth, is the last bit of money that you access throughout your life.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's really the key. The Roth is like this little engine that could, and it just keeps working and keeps working. It's already been taxed. You don't want to have to touch it. It's the most beautiful investment you can imagine because you've locked in your tax liability already. It's done. Right. So that's, to me, is the way to do it. Are you okay with that? Are you feeling like, I should do that?
I think so. I think I feel guilty that I haven't maxed out things But I guess if I'm still saving 20% of my salary, so maybe
20%, dude, no guilt. I'm going to give you Jewish girl absolution. You are, go say what do you say, Mark? A Hail Mary? Mark says, say an Our Father or a Hail Mary, and I'll just say, just relax. 20% saving is great. And it doesn't have to be that every single dollar you own is efficiently invested, because that's a lot of pressure. And sometimes we do things that are inefficient simply to have that knowledge that you've got a safety net. Okay? That's it. All right?
Yeah.
Breathe. Breathe with me. All right. You're in good shape.
I appreciate it. That makes me feel better.
All right, Ben. Go off. Go have fun. Don't worry. And let me know how you do with the CFP, okay?
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for calling. Oh, I like when people are freaking out because they're like, oh, no, I'm only saving 20%, not 23%. It's okay, gang. It really is. Now, of course, many people are doing the exact opposite. They're not saving enough. So then, but even if you haven't saved enough, it's hard for me to argue blowing out of your emergency reserve fund to fund an IRA, even a Roth IRA. Get that emergency reserve fund established, 6 to 12 months of your living expenses. It's sacrosanct. Don't break the glass unless you have to, and then start putting money into your retirement accounts. Okay? You're listening to Jill on Money, 855-411-JILL. That is our phone number. Our email address, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
It's Jill on Money, the show where Jill Schlesinger helps you save your money.
I miss my baby's bones.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, 855-411-JILL. That is our phone number. And our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. Hey, you know what? It's Medicare open enrollment season. How exciting, right? The only problem is that Medicare book that gets sent out is like ridiculous. It's like massively thick and intense, and it's probably the biggest turnoff to trying to figure out what the heck is going on for your health care if you're over the age of 65. But here's what you need to know. The best way to control your health care costs through that Medicare program is to choose your coverage carefully. Unfortunately, only about 10% of people voluntarily change their Medicare plans. Just 10%. You know why? Because it's that book. It's that gosh darn book that's so thick and annoying. I'm going to give you a workaround. So if you have Medigap supplemental plan and you're in good health, shop around. You probably can save yourself some money by switching to another company. If you've got Medicare Advantage, you know that's the managed care alternative to traditional fee-for-service coverage. Just make sure all of your doctors are in the network. And, of course, understand the deductible and your out-of-pocket limits and the prescription drug choices. If you've got Part D, the medication plan, if you don't request a change, your coverage is going to be automatically renewed. But here's the thing. You know that annoying book? You don't have to worry about it. Go to medicare.gov/find a plan. Let me do that again. Medicare.gov/find a plan. This is so cool. It literally helps you compare the plans based on you. You can put your medications in there and say, these are the medications I take. You can look through it. So why you are not doing it? Because maybe you're just thinking the book is the book. Don't worry about that book. Just go to medicare.gov/find a plan. Nice tool to use. And open enrollment is open until December 7th. Oh, by the way, next April, thank goodness Social Security Administration kind of getting on this. Medicare beneficiaries, your Social Security numbers are not going to be printed on that Medicare card anymore. Starting next year, April of next year, we now know that Medicare cards will have a randomly generated ID number. That's so awesome. And hopefully this helps combat identity theft and fraud. They're going to be mailed over the course of the year. So it starts next April through April 2019. Use your current card until you get a new one. And don't forget to shred and dispose of that old one when you do get the new one. All right, let me do a quick question here. We've got Carolyn, who's got $100,000 to invest for 5 grandchildren, 20, 22, 23, 24, and 12. Okay. The older 4 are working part-time in college. 12-year-old is in 7th grade. What's the best investment for principal safety and to gain profits over the years? Come on. You can't have both. Also, she wants the lowest tax penalty as possible. Well, I don't know if you care about taxes right now. I don't know what you want to do with this money. For the 12-year-old, if you want to invest for education, use a 529 plan. Okay? If you want to put money in for the 4 older ones who are working part-time in college, you might open up Roth IRAs for them. And you can do that anywhere. You can do that at a robo-advisor. You could open that up at Betterment for them or Wealthfront or Rebalance IRA. And you can start to put some money in right now for them. You could do that over the next few years. Maybe you want to do a combination. Maybe you want to say, okay, each kid's going to get $25,000, right? Maybe the older ones, half their money goes into a Roth IRA and the other half goes into just a plain old investment account. The thing is that's really important here, Carolyn, is that you cannot guarantee principal safety and gained profits. Those are diametrically opposed. If you're asking me, how can you just guarantee principal safety? It's going to be a very boring investment. It's going to be a bond fund. It's going to be a CD. If you are talking about how can I have a balanced portfolio that generally speaking is going to be hopefully capturing upside of the market, it will not escape the downside, but I'm willing to take a little bit of a ride, that's different. Maybe the way to skin the cat for you is to say for the older kids, the money that goes into the Roth IRA, you can put that at risk, maybe just put it in like an age-based type of portfolio. And the money that you put outside of the retirement account is just a boring investment account or maybe a CD or maybe an online bank. I guess it really depends what each of those kids is planning to do. So I hope that helps. If you've got a follow-up or you want, this is a call. This is really when we need a call, right? This is the problem. We tried, but if you want more information, you got to come on the air because I need more information about each of these kids and where they are and what else is going on. By the way, if any of those kids is going to have is going to graduate with student loan debt, then maybe what you actually do is put the money aside and just pay that debt off as soon as they get out of school. That might be another idea. All right, Carolyn, thank you very much for writing. This is Jill on Money. And if you've got a question, we want to hear from you. Money questions, 855-411-JILL. Send an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Until the thaw comes around, so I climb up to say goodbye. Hear the wind in my baby's hair, and I lie down next to her. She destroyed my baby's lips, and the water sticks and the light plays tricks on my eyes and in my baby's bones.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. Now, if you are parents or students, you probably know that it is college application season. It's also federal student aid application season. FAFSA.gov is up and running as of October 1st. So here's what you need to know. You need to know that you got to go and do this. And that's most important. We got a question about whether someone who's a junior in high school can apply this early for FAFSA, and the answer is no, you can't. It's for the next. It's not. That would be a year early. So you actually have to apply for the year that you're going to be attending school. But what I also want to point out is I'm so glad you're having this conversation, because even if you're not going to apply for FAFSA, maybe this is a good time for you to call our friend Kelly Peeler's company, Next Gen Vest. Junior, you're looking around, you're seeing what's out there. Next Gen Vest will put you in touch with a money mentor, trained college students for your high school student. And I think that's really a great idea a year before you're getting ready to do it, because it could streamline the process of applying for college and then getting aid when you do it. So it's pretty cool. Text 646-798-1745. 646-798-1745 and just type in, I want help paying for college. You will get connected with a human being 24/7. So give that a shot. Give that a shot. I'm going to say that. Anyway, FAFSA available. I can't tell you how important it is that we get people to do this. It is estimated that $2.7 billion every year goes just flying away just because people are not applying for aid. Go apply, okay? You're listening to Jill on Money. Next up, we've got a fantastic interview. Really terrific. Tim Harford, he is an economist. He's written a new book about what has shaped our economy, the inventions, the most important inventions that have shaped our economy. It's a great interview, so stay tuned. Jill on Money, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
It's the weekend, which means it's time for Jill on Money, the show that makes money fun and just happens to answer all your financial questions. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome to Jill on Money. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. Oh, I love when I find things that I've put aside. I'm so happy. I found my cheat sheet, Mark. Aren't you happy that I'm happy? Yes. He's very happy when I'm happy. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. This is the show that is a little bit more fun. We have dessert with our vegetables. I am Jill Schlesinger. I'm a certified financial planner. I'm the senior CFP board ambassador. I haven't said that in a while. I thought I'd say that. That just means that I love talking about kind of your holistic financial life. If you have a financial question, a money question, a question about retirement, maybe a question about education funding, give us a holler, 855-411-JILL. You can email us, askjill@jillonmoney.com. So it is Halloween weekend or weekend before Halloween. And I should just point out that, we've just celebrated the 30th anniversary of the crash of 1987, Black Monday. I guess maybe you're wondering, could that happen again? I mean, I'm not in the crash prediction business, but I would say this. If you are worried about those kinds of things continuing to occur in the future, that makes sense to me that you would be worried about it, because it's not as if everything's all hunky-dory and things have been fixed. In fact, I would say that there's a lot of excesses that are still in the system that have to be addressed. And until we address them, you might be wise to take care of your specific area over which you have control. That means having an adequate emergency reserve fund. That means not being highly concentrated in risky stuff like stocks or your company's stock in your retirement account. All of that stuff, All right, this weekend, our show is so fabulous because we have a great guest. His name is Tim Harford. He is the international best-selling author of 50 Inventions That Shaped the Modern Economy. I love the way this guy talks. He is the undercover economist from the FT, and he joins us to talk about the things that have not just the most important things, but the things that shaped us. And so that's the important distinction. So here's my interview with Tim Harford. Well, your most recent book, 50 Inventions That Shaped the Modern Economy, is really terrific. And I want to understand why you needed or felt passionate about this project, because there are obviously tons of different folks who've said, hey, here's what's important. It's the light bulb. It's the printing press. What's your take on this, and why did you want to write the book?
It goes back to The Undercover Economist. I wrote The Undercover Economist because I'd read some wonderful science books, in particular a book called E=mc². And I wanted to convey that same joy and sense of wonder that you get in great popular science writing in economics. And I had the same experience recently reading really cool technological histories. So you go back to James Burke's Connections, which is a wonderful book, Mark Levinson's History of the Shipping Container. Stephen Johnson wrote a book, How We Got to Now. And they describe how objects were invented and how they changed the world. And I thought, this is great. I need to do this for economics, for the subject I love, and explain ideas in economics through the medium of all of these different inventions. It's the best way to tell a story that people will engage with and will understand.
And you start with a most interesting topic, number one, the plow. And you write, the plow kick-started civilization in the first place. How did it do so?
Well, the plow makes it more effective to grow crops under your control in a particular region. So it sets the stage for agriculture rather than hunter-gatherer societies. But the interesting thing about the plow, it's not just that. It's used to farm cereals, grains. And the thing about grains is you harvest them in a predictable way. Every year you store them in a barn or some kind of storehouse, and then someone else can come and take them. So suddenly you have this setup where there's a fight over the surplus. That means people are setting up armies to protect their own grain surplus or to go and steal somebody else's grain surplus. How do you fund those armies? Well, you have a system of taxation. And so you've got this whole edifice of modern civilization, complex societies, cities, taxation, bureaucracies, the whole thing, all the good, all the bad, and it's all built on the foundation of the plow.
I love that you started that way because it seems like such a simple object, and then you kind of go right into barbed wire as another example of something that really did shape the modern economy. So talk a little bit about barbed wire before we get into some of my favorites around the reinventing how we live.
Yes, well, as with the plow, it's not just an invention that solves a problem. Naturally, we think of inventions as, we've got this problem, someone invents them, and they fix the problem, and that's nice that we have this new thing. It's never that simple. The plow reshaped societies, and so did barbed wire. Abraham Lincoln, in the 1860s, signs the Homesteading Act. He's trying to shift the economic center of gravity in the United States to the Midwest, away from the South. So anybody who shows up in the Midwest, man, woman, freed slave, if they farm the land and work to improve the land, then that land becomes theirs by right. The government will grant them a title to the land. But that legal title isn't worth anything unless you can protect the land from roaming cattle. And there's not enough wood in the great American prairies to build fencing. So suddenly you have this urgent need for fencing materials. And there's this buzz of innovative activity in the Midwest. People know this is a problem. People are trying to solve the problem. And a few years later, a man called J.F. Glidden of DeKalb, Illinois, comes up with recognizably modern barbed wire. And it solves this huge problem for the settlers. But of course, it creates a terrible problem both for the Native Americans and for the old-time cowboys. So as with many of these inventions, they create winners, but they also create losers.
In the winners and losers category, I just want to note that you put Google search in there, and I want to get to that in a second. And also later in the book, you have the iPhone, but you don't have, say, the personal computer. Now, what's the distinguishing feature of Google search or the iPhone that, say, a personal computer that, you didn't say, okay, Microsoft Word or whatever you decided. But what made those two things get in, but omitting a personal computer or even software associated with it?
Yeah, it's a fair question. So it's worth clarifying what the project is. It's not, these are the most important 50 things that I could think of, because that would be quite a predictable list. Instead, what I wanted to do was to tell 50 great stories and to hopefully teach lessons with each story. So some of these essays, they're almost, some of these chapters, they're almost like parables. You're learning something about, say, how a technology can reshape the income distribution, or you're learning something about the importance of global supply chains. Sometimes the points are very silly and fun. So with the iPhone, the point I wanted to make was that a lot of the underlying technology is government-funded in military technology. Siri was originally a military application. So with each case, is there an interesting lesson to convey? Is there an interesting story to tell? Is there a surprise? So yeah, the steam engine's not there. The car isn't there. The personal computer isn't there. It's not because they're not important. It's because there were more intriguing stories to tell.
We'll get back to our interview with Tim Harford in just a minute. If you have a financial question, give us a call, 855-411-JILL, or send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your money.
You're back with Jill on Money. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. I'm Jill Schlesinger. So many things that we encounter day in and day out are really important. And to learn some of the stories behind the 50 inventions that shaped the modern economy, we are talking to Tim Harford. He's the undercover economist for the FT. And the book is really fabulous, 50 Inventions That Shaped the Modern Economy, because it really does kind of give you a sense of how some of these great inventions came to be and what the impact has been on our lives, including something that many of us take every single day. More of my interview with Tim Harford. I love the story about the elevator because I have a slight fear of elevators. And someone just told me a funny story about using the elevator as a way to think about driverless cars, right? And they said, well, when we had elevators in the beginning, it was a really weird concept. And there was an elevator man working it and would use this control. And then when it was the automatic elevator, they still kept the elevator man in there as the illusion that somebody knew how to actually drive this thing up and down, and that made people feel better. So this scientist basically said to me, we kind of want to do the same thing with driverless cars. We want people to know that they're really safe, but we have to give them something to show them that they're really safe, and they're not sure what that would be. So I want you to talk a little bit about the elevator and why that's in the book.
It's an interesting question. And funny enough, if I can drop names for a moment,
Please.
I recently interviewed Garry Kasparov. Garry Kasparov, the great chess player, famous for battling Deep Blue, the chess supercomputer. And he was talking about automation. He said one of the things that triggered automatic elevators, after decades, they had the technology for decades, there was an elevator strike. So the elevator operators went on strike in New York City in protest at something or other, which of course is a crisis because you're trying to get to the 70th floor of the Empire State Building with no elevators. And so that was a tipping point in persuading people that maybe they could push their own elevator buttons. One of the reasons I love the elevator is because it's one of these everyday inventions. And really the invention is the elevator brake, by the way. We've had elevators for centuries, but no one would get in them until you had a brake invented that makes them safe. So the reason I've got the elevator in there is it's one of these inventions that we just take for granted. Nobody thinks about it, apart from a few people like yourself who are a little nervous, and you shouldn't be nervous because they're incredibly safe. But we take them for granted and we don't recognize what an amazing feat of engineering they are and what a useful technology they are. So the way to think about this, if you take a big building, take the Empire State Building, or take the Sears Tower in Chicago, now the Willis Tower, you imagine slicing that building into single stories or double story buildings and distributing those in parking lots all over New Jersey. And think about the amount of driving that you'd have to take to get between these different buildings, and how much parking would be devoted to the automobiles in those parking lots. And all of that is saved because you can stack them all up in this huge tall tower, connect them via elevators, which are super efficient, by the way, because they work with a counterweight. And then, of course, you have the subway coming in underneath. And I mean, it's a tremendously environmentally efficient way of housing people and of providing office space for people. And I mean, it's not as though people living in New York are thinking, well, this is a frugal environmental community. I mean, it's one of the richest places on earth, but it's also very environmentally friendly. And it is largely because of the elevator.
On the cover of this book is an air conditioner, and I've been known to run around the world saying the air conditioner is probably the best invention of the 20th century.
It reshaped the world, the air conditioner. So this was originally developed for the purposes of controlling humidity in color printing shops. So you have to put the paper through the printing press several times with different colored inks. And if the paper, because of the humidity, grew or shrank even a fraction of an inch, it would just look terrible. So you had to control the humidity. And that's why the air conditioner was originally developed. And then pretty quickly, people realize, it's a lot more comfortable in the room where the printing presses are. And so you start to have things like the summer blockbuster at the movies, the shopping mall. Originally, they take off because this is a place where you can go where it's oppressively hot and humid outside, but you can go indoors and air conditioning is provided. Of course, now we have air conditioning in our homes if you live in that particular part of the world. And I mean, there's a wonderful piece by the writer Stephen Johnson on the air conditioner, who he says that the air conditioner elected Ronald Reagan. It shifted the center of gravity back towards the South. You know, states like Florida and Texas, as more and more older people filled these states, they became Republican voters. They wouldn't have been there if it hadn't been for the development of air conditioning. I would take that a step further and reflect on the global trends as well. You think about these economic powerhouses now in places such as Dubai, Singapore, Shanghai, huge skyscrapers. These big glass skyscrapers, completely unfeasible in hot weather unless you have air conditioning.
Tim, should I feel guilty that I am poisoning the world because of my love of air conditioning?
Well, we all need to take steps on that, because all of these wonderful inventions, well, many of these wonderful inventions that I describe in the book consume energy, and most of the energy at the moment that we produce comes from fossil fuels, and that emits carbon dioxide, and that's contributing to global warming. And of course, the air conditioners themselves, their exhausts are warm, so that warms the cities that they're located in, so that intensifies the effect. So, we need to do something, but often technological progress can help. The great thing about the air conditioner, it's mostly used in very hot, sunny places. So that does at least open up the potential for using solar power to run some of these units. We don't have the same thing here in the UK where I live. Peak electricity demand is 5 o'clock in the evening in December. And I can assure you, and I'm sure you know this from your own experience living in London, there's not a lot of sunshine at 5 o'clock on a December evening in the UK. We're quite far north. So, there's always hope, but we can't take these environmental problems for granted and just assume they'll solve themselves, because they won't.
Okay, I want to go into inventing the wheel, because what you don't probably know is that I am one of the biggest fangirls for index funds. And so I was delighted to see that number 45 on the 50 inventions that shaped the modern economy was none other than the simple and beautiful index fund. Can you please explain why it's included in the book?
Yes, I mean, because I am an economist, there are various inventions that more technologically minded people might have omitted. So for example, I discuss the invention of paper money and the invention of insurance, but the index fund is one of my favorites. I'm a big fan of index funds as well. One of the reasons why I love this is because it's an example of a rare example of an academic idea leaping out of the pages of the textbooks, the peer-reviewed journals, and taking shape in real markets. There's a technical term for this, by the way. It's called performativity, where economists are studying markets and then suddenly the markets themselves are changed because the economists are studying it. And the index fund is, I think, one of the most benign examples. Paul Samuelson, Nobel Memorial Prize winner, advisor to John F. Kennedy, one of the most influential economists of the 20th century, issued a challenge to fund managers. He said, most of you guys should quit. You can't beat the market. Oh, and by the way, somebody should start a fund that just tracks the market because it doesn't exist. I mean, this is as recently as the mid-1970s. It's not that long ago. No index funds. And a gentleman called John Bogle, most famous for his fund Vanguard and his organization Vanguard, he reads Samuelson's work. He's been thinking along those lines himself. And he says, okay, I will set up an index fund. And of course, he's just laughed out of Wall Street. People just think the whole idea is ridiculous. Slowly but surely, index funds have caught on. They've proved to be very effective. And a few years ago, shortly before he died, Samuelson actually gives this speech where he praises Vanguard and he praises the index fund. And he says it's one of the great inventions. It's like wine and cheese and the wheel and the alphabet. So, he was fond of it, perhaps understandably, but I'm fond of it too.
All right, we'll get back with our interview with Tim Harford in just a minute. While you're on the break, go buy his book. Come on, you can do it. 50 Inventions That Shaped the Modern Economy. This is Jill on Money. Our phone number is 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Wondering how to make your money work for you? Get on the line now. 855-411-JILL. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. And we're talking to Tim Harford, whose most recent book out right now is called 50 Inventions That Shaped the Modern Economy. But before that, he had a book called Messy: The Power of Disorder to Transform Our Lives. And Messy is now out in paperback, and it's an awesome book. So I really encourage you to go check it out. And maybe you'll want to do that after you hear this next segment, because Messy celebrates all the benefits that messiness can have in our lives. I'm trying. Maybe I'll learn. Stay tuned. More of my interview right now with Tim Harford. I love this book. So let me just tell you, everybody, that I read this book because someone gave it to me and said, you are so obsessive about your email inbox. You need to read this book, Messy, by Tim Harford. And the subtitle is The Power of Disorder to Transform Our Lives. I love the premise, which is essentially, you know what? You want to be all tidy. And in fact, some messiness is good. You begin the book with a story about Keith Jarrett, which I would love for you to recount.
It is an astonishing story. So the story begins late January 1975. This young German girl, she's 17 years old, Vera Branders, she has managed to get herself somehow in the position where she is the youngest concert promoter in Germany because she loves jazz. She just wants more jazz. So she has persuaded, at this tender age, the Cologne Opera House, which is a huge venue, to host this late night concert by the American jazz pianist Keith Jarrett. And he's going to show up, he's going to sit down at this piano, and he will just start improvising. No sheet music, nothing. It is a sellout. 1,400 people are going to watch this concert, which is big even by Keith Jarrett's standards. He's never played solo. He's played with people like Miles Davis, but he's never played solo in front of such a big crowd. And when Vera Branders brings him on stage to introduce him to the piano just a few hours before this concert, he takes one look at it and immediately he knows there's a problem. He plays a few keys and he comes over to Vera Branders and he says, I'm not playing. I am not playing. If you can't get a new piano, I can't play. And there'd been a mix-up at the Opera House. They had brought up a rehearsal model. It's out of tune, the pedals are sticking, felt is worn away, so it sounds harsh and tinny. And it's too small. It's not even loud enough to fill the arena. But it is 1970s Germany, late on a Friday afternoon. Everyone's gone home. There is no way to get a new piano. And so Vera manages to find a piano tuner and it knocks it into some kind of shape, but it's still a terrible, terrible old instrument. And Keith doesn't want to play, but he realizes that when these people come, these 1,400 people are going to show up, they're going to tear this girl apart if he doesn't play. He just takes pity on her and agrees to play. And when he, later that night, walks onto the stage, when he sits down at this unplayable piano and begins, he is not prepared for what's about to happen. Nobody is prepared for what's about to happen. It's a masterpiece. It is absolutely a masterpiece. And it became a best-selling album. It was recorded because Keith Jarrett wanted documentary evidence of what a terrible, terrible concert sounds like. But he didn't get this terrible concert. He got this masterpiece because all of the adjustments he had to make while he was playing the piano, avoiding the upper registers, well, that puts you in the middle of the keyboard. It's soothing and ambient, but you're having to hit the keys really hard because the piano's so quiet. So there's this dynamism about the way he's playing it, but he's also playing this very, very soothing tones, which just makes the whole thing electrifying. And so that's the beginning of the book and the discussion of why, when we're knocked off course, when we have to work with difficult people, when we have obstacles or distractions in our way, why so often does that actually raise our game? Because it is by no means unique to Keith Jarrett. I mean, he's a great talent, but the same thing, basically the same story, can be told about commuters on the London Underground. There was a London Underground strike a few years ago. A lot of commuters had to rejig their commute. Some of the tube trains were closed, some weren't. Some of the stations were closed, some were open, but people could still travel on the buses and so on. And so commuters just adjusted. 48 hours later, the strike's over. And we've got really good data on this. Tens of thousands of people never went back. So the strike made them realize they'd been getting it wrong their whole lives. They had been commuting to work wrong for decades. So this interruption of randomness and disorder very often sparks a problem-solving response. And that's partly what Messy is all about.
And I also love the chapter about improvisation because, many people will say to me like, oh, you're on the radio or you're on your podcast or you're on TV and you improvise. And I think of something that is in the book, which is you're saying that careful preparation is essential, but and I'm quoting, there are also times when it makes sense to embrace the messy process of improvisation. I just thought of it because I was doing a TV segment and it was about Toys R Us going bankrupt, declaring bankruptcy. And in the middle of the segment, one of the anchors asks me about a completely different topic. I mean, really, totally different topic, the Equifax data breach. And the response that I gave him, of all the times I've talked about Equifax, probably, 80 times in the last week, it was the most concise answer I have ever had to a question about the data breach. I did it in 25 seconds, 3 specific points. I knew the information, but I'd never said it in such a succinct way. And it only happened because it was improvised. I had no choice. It was live TV.
Yeah, and if only we could bottle that, right? Except we can't bottle it, but we keep trying to bottle it. So we script all these interactions. Sometimes there's a good reason for that, but very often that more human improvised response works incredibly well. I mean, if you're a jazz musician like Keith Jarrett, you can do it with an instrument, but we're all very practiced at talking. We all get practice at talking and listening and talking and listening every day. And so we need to tap into that a little more. It's partly because you're able to respond to what's in front of you, to the context. You're listening to somebody and you're responding to exactly what they've said. And that's got a tremendous power. But there's also just a very strange creative process that goes on in the brain. I describe some of the neuroscientific research into improvisation that seems to disinhibit us a little bit, and the creativity flows out.
We'll get back to our interview with Tim Harford in just a minute. You are listening to Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back with Jill on Money. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life and brings you some really cool and fun guests. This weekend, we are so lucky because we've got great British author Tim Harford, and columnist, by the way. His current book that's out in hardcover, which is terrific, 50 Inventions That Shaped the Modern Economy, is really, it's great. It's a way to really understand how various inventions have had unintended consequences and impacted all of us. His previous book is called Messy, The Power of Disorder to Transform Our Lives. It's out in paperback right now. This is how I actually got to become a little bit more interested in Tim Harford. I'd read his column in the Financial Times. I knew that he was the undercover economist, but this was the book that really caught my attention because it seemed so contrary, certainly contrary to the way I live my life. So the cool thing about Tim is that he takes research in neuroscience and psychology and social science, and he basically says that all of this information that we have proves that in order to be creative or responsive or resilient, you might really need to have some sense of disorder, confusion, and disarray. So I went after him about something that plagues me personally. Perhaps it plagues you. It's the old email inbox and how we handle our inbound inquiries. So right now, more of my interview with Tim Harford. I can't let you go without asking why I should not be completely obsessive about my inbox, which I am.
Okay, I don't want to tell you how to run your inbox, but I will tell you what the research says.
Okay.
So there's a great study by a psychologist called Steve Whitaker. So Steve Whitaker writes, the title of this study is, Am I Wasting My Time Organizing Email? And the answer is, yes, you are. Because it turns out, and there are a couple of exceptions, I'll talk about them in a second if you like, but basically it turns out if you just search for email using the search function that is in any modern email software is available, you will find your email just as quickly as if you look for it in this very complex set of folders that you have set up. And the reason it doesn't feel like that is because folders are visual and we feel very comfortable with visual metaphors, whereas the search is text. But actually it's just as effective. And of course you save all that time that you were setting up folders and dragging and dropping. And Whitaker talks more generally about filing, not just email filing, but electronic documents and physical documents. And he says very often we suffer from the problem of premature filing. So this thing, it's a great phrase, isn't it? Premature filing. So this thing comes onto your desk, comes into your inbox. And if you're a tidy-minded person, you want to get it out of the inbox, off your desk. You want to put it somewhere where it belongs. But you don't know where it belongs because you don't have a context. You don't quite understand, is this going to be super important? Is this going to be the first email in this long, is this huge project? Or is it just going to be something that will be forgotten by 2 o'clock this afternoon? You don't know. And so if you try to file it too quickly, what tends to happen is, it will go into a folder and then there'll only ever be one email in that folder and you will have no idea where it was. Whereas if it stays in your inbox, or alternatively, if you just quickly type out a response and archive it, you probably never need to search for it again. But if you do need to search for it again, you'll find it. So that is the way I now try and deal with my my email. I should say there is an exception to the rule. If there's a very clear structure to the email already, then it can help to put it in a folder. So if you're working in accountancy or tax preparation,
right,
and all the documents that come in, you know exactly where they belong, fine, have a folder, put them in the folder. There's nothing wrong with that. But very often it's much more generic. So for me, if I have a particular event, I'm going to speak at a book festival, I'll set up a folder for that event.
Right.
And I'll drag everything into that folder, and then when the festival's done, I can just archive the whole folder. But in most cases, I'm just reply, archive, reply, archive. I'm quite happy to get to nothing in my inbox, but what I don't want is this huge collection, this forest of folders, because it's not actually helping.
So I have a little method that I developed a million years ago, and I call it the 4 Ds. So when I have an email, so it was do now, like I actually have to respond to this. This is breaking news. Someone wants me on the radio. Do now. Next one is delay, where basically I don't do anything. Delegate. Hey, I'm sending it to Mark, the producer, who's going to make sure that we get connected with Tim Harford. Or dump it. I am an obsessive dumper of emails. Like I literally just delete as much as possible. And I think that I have to get more comfortable just saying, like, I don't have to do that all the time because that's a waste of time in and of itself.
Well, I don't know. I'm with you. I'm quite happy with the deleting. Just throw the stuff in the trash. What I'm against is the excessive attempts to organize it.
Okay.
So what you're describing sounds to me perfectly fine. It's funny because people contrast my book Messy with the famous Marie Kondo book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. And they're like, oh, you guys you're like opposites. We're not opposites at all. I think Marie Kondo's right about loads of things. But the thing is, she says very early on in that book, if you want to tidy up, forget organizational systems. Forget filing cabinets, forget, sort of vast closets and wardrobes. And that doesn't work. The only thing that works is to just have less stuff. That works with your inbox as well. Like if you're willing to delegate it or dump it, fine, no problem at all. It's when you create these very elaborate structures, file everything in these elaborate structures, and then tell yourself that you've done something. You haven't done anything. You've just concealed the problem underneath an organizational system that won't work. So I think you and I, we're on the same wavelength here, and maybe Marie Kondo as well.
Thanks so much to author and columnist Tim Harford for joining us today. Go check out these books. Messy is now out in paperback, and 50 Inventions That Shaped the Modern Economy. When we return, one last question from one of you guys. If you want to get in touch with us, 855-411-JILL. That is our phone number. Our email address, askjill@jillonmoney.com. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, a money question, investing, retirement, give us a call, 855-411-JILL. Send an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. Here is a question from Wes, who is a 404 listener. Oh, poor 404, RIP. So sad. Go and check out some of those archive shows. They're great. Anyway, Wes is 32 years old, and he says he's a little late to the game when it comes to investing for retirement. He's got about $6,000 in his IRA. His employer just changed the investment firm that holds the accounts to Charles Schwab. He says, I think now is a great time to get everything allocated and automated. I know you're a big fan of index funds. I'm curious, should I, a person that is relatively risk tolerant, allocate 100% of my contributions to the S&P 500 and leave it alone? Is there a better strategy? I have four children under the age of 8. Oh, my God. I'm the single earner for my family. I can only contribute up to the 3% match. Small potatoes, I know. I plan to make more money in the next 5 years. So, Wes, thank you so much for writing. There's no need to be 100% in stocks, even though you are risk tolerant, because it's still prudent to have some diversification. So, again, the most, I would say 80% S&P 500, 20% do a little intermediate term bond fund. Keep it really boring. Keep putting money in. As you get raises, nudge up that contribution level by 1% a year, hopefully a little bit more. And if possible, try auto rebalancing. So you stay 80 stocks, 20% bonds, but you auto rebalance. The program will do that for you automatically, and it will keep that allocation 80-20 regardless of what happens. And then you don't have to worry about it. It will just beautifully be in perfect alignment with your wishes and your desires. Thank you so much for writing in, and I also miss the 404. It's very sad. Maybe we should put a link to that. That last show. Okay, you have been listening to the Jill on Money program. If you missed any of the show, maybe you missed early segments with Tim Harford, just go to our website, jillonmoney.com. We have a link at the top of the page to YouTube channel and all that fun stuff. 855-411-JILL is our phone number. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. And happy Halloween. We'll see you next week.